All right, today we're jumping into a really dramatic story. It's all about a city's sudden, complete collapse. And what's cool is how it's told, not by just one person, but by this whole chorus of different voices, from heaven, from earth, all reacting to this huge, world-shattering event. So yeah, let's get right into it.
And boom, it kicks off with this massive announcement from a powerful angel. Just 2 words, but they hit hard because they're repeated. Fallen. Fallen. See, this isn't some vague prophecy about something that might happen. Nope, it's a done deal. The great city is gone. So now, let's dig into what that actually looks like and what it means for everyone else.
So the first thing we find out is this wasn't your typical takeover. It's not just that the walls came down. The city's been spiritually gutted. It's gone from being this hub of civilization to a total wasteland, a hangout for everything dark and corrupt. We're talking about more than just rubble here. This is a picture of complete spiritual collapse.
Okay, so just as we're trying to wrap our heads around that image of total ruin, the camera angle changes. A second voice cuts in, and this one's different. It's not another announcement of doom. It's a warning, and it is urgent.
And this is a really key detail. The judgment is specific. It's targeted. There's a clear line drawn between the corrupted city itself and my people. The message here is pretty powerful. You can be living in the system, but you don't have to be of the system. But if you want to avoid its fate, you've got to break away from its sins. It's a call to get out, now, before it's too late. So you might be asking, what's the logic behind this judgment? Well, it's basically a form of divine payback, balancing the cosmic scales. But check this out. The instruction is to pay her back double. This goes way beyond an eye for an eye. It's a massive, overwhelming response that's supposed to match the huge scale of the city's wrongs.
And why so harsh? Well, we get a peek inside the city's own head, so to speak. The text paints it as a queen, just overflowing with arrogance. She thinks she's invincible, right? Untouchable. The kind of power that will never, ever experience loss. And it's that deep, deep pride that's pointed to as the core of the problem.
And this is where you really see the dramatic irony. Just look at the contrast between how Babylon sees itself and what's actually coming. On one side, you have these boasts of being queen forever. On the other, fire, death, and famine. Every single claim of being safe and secure is met with a promise of a swift, terrible end. It's like the city's own confidence is the perfect setup for its spectacular fall.
Okay, now we're getting to the real heart of it, the emotional gut punch of the story. We've seen why the city fell. Now, we're going to look at who is actually sad about it. And the reaction from everyone on Earth is laid out like this powerful 3-part song of mourning. And these mourners, they're split into 3 specific groups. You've got the kings, the merchants, and the sea captains. Basically, the pillars of global power, money, and trade. And by listening to their grief, you get this picture of a totally interconnected global machine that has just been smashed to pieces.
First up, we hear from the kings, the political bigwigs, and they're weeping because, well, they were in on her luxury. Their sadness is mixed with pure terror. They're standing way back, totally shocked by how fast and how powerfully this all went down. What they're really mourning is the loss of their partner in crime, their partner in power.
Next, you have the merchants, the engine of this whole global economy. And their grief? It's brutally practical. Let's be real, they aren't just crying for the city itself, they're crying for their wallets. The entire market, the very thing that made them so incredibly rich, has just, poof, vanished in a second. And what's so fascinating here is the level of detail. The text doesn't just say, they lost stuff. Oh no. It gives you this long, detailed shipping manifest. It goes from gold and silver and spices to fancy cloth. And then it gets really chilling. It lists human beings sold as slaves. This isn't just an inventory of rich people's things. It's a powerful criticism of a system built on insane luxury and exploitation, where a human life is just the last item on a long list of products.
So their cry sounds a lot like the kings, but there's a really important difference. The kings are mourning a mighty city, a political power.
The merchants?
They're mourning great wealth. Their grief is all about the money. It's tied directly to this massive economic collapse. And last but not least, we hear from the people of the sea. The ship captains, the sailors, everybody whose job depended on the ocean. These guys are the global supply chain, right? The logistical network that made the whole empire run. And their mourning just confirms it. Every single piece of this economic engine has just seized up.
Now, did you catch that one phrase that all 3 groups keep repeating? In 1 hour.
That's the key. This wasn't a slow burn, a gradual decline. It was bam, a sudden, shocking, total collapse. And repeating that phrase over and over really drives home how completely stunned everyone watching was.
And all of this sets up a huge contrast, because while the entire world of power and money is weeping and wailing, the story just flips the script on us. It shows us a totally different reaction from a totally different place.
And this is where that theme of divine justice really comes into focus. What looks like an unimaginable disaster down on earth is actually a reason to party in heaven. That command to rejoice completely reframes the whole event. It's not a catastrophe. It's the moment that justice, true justice, was finally served.
But the story doesn't just end with the celebration. It closes with one last really powerful image. Another angel steps up to do something symbolic, something to show that this fall of Babylon is absolutely 100% permanent.
So picture this. An angel picks up a huge boulder, like a giant millstone, something massive and heavy, and just hurls it into the ocean. The symbolism here is pretty obvious, right? It sinks fast, it sinks violently, and it's gone. Forever. You're never getting that back. It's a perfect visual for what just happened to this supposedly great city.
And then the angel spells it out for us just in case we missed it. This wasn't just a defeat, this was a total wipeout and erasure. The violence of that stone hitting the water, that's the violence of the city's fall. And that key phrase, never to be found again, man, that's about as final as it gets.
And to really hammer home how final this is, the text starts this haunting, almost poetic list of everything that's going to stop. First to go, culture, celebration, all the music, the harps, the pipes, the trumpets, the whole soundtrack of the city just goes silent. Forever.
And then that silence spreads to the economy. No more craftspeople, no more workers, not even the sound of a millstone grinding grain. You know, all that noise, that hustle and bustle that created all the wealth, it's all just been switched off.
And finally, the silence takes over the most basic parts of life, of community. The light of a lamp will never shine there again. The voices of a bride and groom will never be heard. What's left is just nothing. Absolute darkness, absolute quiet.
So in the end, after all this shouting and the warnings and the weeping, we're just left with this really unsettling silence. And it forces us to ask a pretty deep question, right? When a whole civilization that was built on nothing but wealth, power, and having more stuff is just wiped out in an hour, what's actually left? It's this haunting picture of complete nothingness, and it's the final word on the fate of a city that was so sure it would never, ever have to mourn.